Recording started.
All right. Shalom, family, brothers and sisters. Again, my name is Brother Arak Kabar. I will be bringing forth the scriptures. I apologize. I'll be bringing forth the lesson this evening. My dear beloved brother Cam will be on here bringing forth the scriptures, reading for me. So again, thank you, my brother. All praises again for the opening precepts. And it's amazing that last word in that last precept is the word love. I want us all to keep that word in our memory as we go throughout this lesson. The title of today's lesson is called Knowledge or Affection, Vanity or Goodness. Again, the title of the lesson is Knowledge or Affection, Vanity or Goodness. The first precept, brother, I didn't send this to you. I added one more precept, and we're actually going to open with that one. So, my brother, if you can open us up with the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus out of your Apocrypha, chapter 4, verses 20 through 26. And while he's getting that, because I didn't send that to him earlier, I want to open up to the saints with, again, the things to think about that while we're going through this lesson. I want you all to ask yourselves, what is the purpose of having knowledge? What's the purpose of it? So I'm going to pause for a second and let y'all think of it. And then I'm going to state or suggest that the purpose of knowledge is to educate others. Not simply for us to have knowledge ourselves, but the purpose of having knowledge is to educate others. But if that's the case, then we have to ask ourselves, who can we share knowledge with? Because some people refuse to receive knowledge. You can only educate those who are willing to hear. Right? Some people we know the scriptures that says that a fool rejecteth knowledge, but everyone is a fool to information that they don't have. So we have to approach the sharing of knowledge and wisdom with a certain spirit. There's a certain way to share information. And if that information is not shared in a certain way, it won't be received. So the question again is, the follow-up question is, how do we do that? How do we present that information? And the answer is with that last word that was in that last precept. It's through love. Love and affection is what creates an opportunity to share knowledge and wisdom. So I'll say that again. Love and affection is what creates an opportunity to share knowledge and wisdom. Without that love and affection, the opportunities will be far few in between. And that's when knowledge and wisdom can become vanity. All right. So the first precept I want to go to, again, is coming from the book of Sirach, chapter 4. And my brother's going to read verses 20 through 26. And brother, you can read that when you have it.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 4, verses 20 through 26. All with verse 20. Observe the opportunity and beware of evil. Be not ashamed when it concerneth thy soul. For there is a shame that bringeth sin, and there is a shame which is glory and grace. Accept no person against thy soul, and let thou not the reverence of any man cause thee to fall. And refrain not to speak when there is occasion to do good, and hide not thy wisdom in her beauty. For by speech wisdom shall be known, and learning by the word of the tongue. In no wise speak against the truth, but be abashed of the error of thine ignorance. Be not ashamed to confess thy sins, and force not the course of the river.
So a couple of key points I want to bring out. In verse 20, it starts off by saying, observe the opportunity, right? So just like I stated, love and affection is what creates an opportunity. So we have to constantly be looking for opportunities to share that wisdom and knowledge, right? Because why? Verse 23 tells us that what? To refrain not to speak. But when? When there is an occasion to be good, right? So it doesn't mean that we should be speaking and spreading our knowledge and wisdom all the time to anyone. We have to wait for the right opportunity, right? But then when that opportunity does present itself, that's when we should what? Not hide our wisdom. But verse 26, the last verse, it says what? But force not the course of the river. So that's an example of trying to force information on people, trying to force your knowledge, your understanding, because you believe that you know what is right and someone else's ignorance, meaning just simply not having the knowledge. That's not the correct way to share your knowledge and wisdom. And when I'm primarily speaking about the knowledge and the wisdom of the Most High. So let me put that out there as well. I'm talking about the knowledge and the wisdom of how to love Christ, how to love the Most High, how to love your neighbor. But we can also take this on a deeper level, or not even going to say a deeper level, on a worldly level. Let me say it that way, because there you can also have worldly knowledge and information on simply how to obtain finances, how to help someone with their well-being as far as physical fitness or their mental health, or how to lay the land. It can be anything. Any knowledge that we have can be used for the good of others. But again, how are we going about sharing that? So keeping that frame of mind there throughout the entirety of this lesson, now I want to ask us the question: what is our primary or first objective as followers of Christ? And how do we accomplish whatever that mission is? Do we accomplish this uh, with vain knowledge, or do we accomplish it with goodness and affection? All right. So before we get into our next set of scriptures, let's first get an understanding of what the word knowledge really is. So my brother, I sent you the precepts as well as some couple other words. Right, that first word is the word knowledge. That's coming from the Merriam-Webster dictionary. If you can read and break down the definition of knowledge, please.
Yes, sir. Knowledge. The fact of knowing something with familiarity gained through experience or association. The understanding of a science, art, or technique. The condition of being aware of something. Having information or of being learned.
So again, knowledge is simply the fact of being familiar with something because you yourself have experienced it, right? We should all have a certain level of knowledge because of things that we have personally gone through our lives. And through those experiences, we can pass on as knowledge or information to others that come after us. There's knowledge is also what? The understanding of different things. And that can be a technique that you've mastered, that you become accustomed to, or art form, or a science, right? It can be anything that you have knowledge of. Or it can also just be, knowledge can just be you being aware of something, you having seen something or heard something that others may not have. That's still knowledge, right? And again, knowledge is simply just information. All right. Now let's go into the Bible. We're going to read from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, and just verse 12. Just one verse here.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it.
Wisdom is a defense, right? Wisdom is a defense, and it giveth life to them that have it. So simply having knowledge is by no means a bad thing, right? It's a great and wonderful thing for us to have. Similar to having money can be a good thing. But it's more about what we do with that money or that knowledge. We should strive to use these things to give life. But now the question is how do we do that? How do we give life? All right. Let's get into another word. Let's get the understanding of what the word affection is now. All right. My brother has, again, the Merriam-Webster dictionary version or definition, of the word affection.
Affection, a feeling of liking and caring for someone or something, a tender attachment, a fondness, a moderate feeling or emotion. The action of affecting or the state of being affected.
Okay. So having affection can be allowing our emotions to cause us to act with care towards someone else. So the same rule that we applied with knowledge, that same rule also applies to affection. Having affection is not a bad thing. But again, it's more about how you use it. So both knowledge and affection can either be used for vanity, which means worthlessness or nothing, or they can be used for goodness. So hopefully through this lesson, we will examine which is the greater gift to have, and more importantly, how to apply them both. All right, now let's start getting into the meat. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, and we're going to be reading verses 12 through 18.
Sure. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, verses 12 through 18. I, the preacher, was over Israel in Jerusalem, and I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail has the Most High given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked cannot be made straight, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered. I commune with mine own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate, and have gotten more wisdom than all that they have been for me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I gave my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow.
God. So again, the key thing that we're speaking on right now is knowledge or wisdom. King Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. He had more knowledge and riches than anyone. Yet he said that all his knowledge was vanity. Not only was it vanity, but his knowledge caused him grief and sorrow, and it vexed his spirit. Why is that? To be a king and have all this knowledge, all this wealth, and all these possessions, why was he vexed? Why was he full of sorrow and grief? The Bible clearly, in many places, explains that it's a good thing to have wisdom. So what message was Solomon really expressing to us here? Let's continue reading Ecclesiastes. Let's now go over to chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 11 all the way through. You know what? Let's break it down. Nope. We're going to read all the way straight through. Let's Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 11 all the way through 26.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 2, verses 11 through 26. Then I looked on all the work that my hands had wrought, and on the labor that I had labored to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of the spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. And I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw the wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. Wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceive also that one event happeneth to them all. Then said I in my heart, as it happens to the fool, so it happeneth even to me. And why was then more wise? Then I said in my heart that this is also vanity. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever. Seeing that which now is in the days to come shall be forgotten, and how dieth the wise man as the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit.
All right, pause right here.
Yea,
Salakia. I want to make sure we're able to take it all in, right? So far Solomon is stating that again, it didn't matter how much he worked, how much he labored, how much he had, how much wisdom he had, he realized that all of it honestly meant nothing. It was vanity. And the reason that he came to that conclusion, he said, because it didn't matter how much knowledge he had, didn't matter how much riches he had, at the end of the day, he still had to suffer the same judgment that someone without would have. Again, so didn't matter if he was rich or poor, both rich and poor will suffer judgment. Didn't matter if he had knowledge of everything or if he was a fool that had no knowledge and was just ignorant. Again, still is going to suffer judgment. And so because of him knowing that, all of that excess wealth of knowledge, it caused him grief and sorrow. He's like, what do I have this for? Right? Now let's continue on to verse 18.
Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. Who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor, wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom, and in knowledge, and in equity. Yet to a man that hath not labored therein, shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity, and a great evil. For what hath man of all his labor, and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of the Most High. For who can eat? Or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For the Most High giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to keep of that. He may give to him that is good before the Most High. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit.
So with all of Solomon's wisdom, he understood that knowing who we are or what you know. Solomon understood that it didn't matter who you were or what you knew or what you had in this life, we all receive the same judgment. So unless we are fortunate enough to live until Christ returns, we all will die. And in our death, all the hard work and labor we used to obtain knowledge, experiences, and riches will mean nothing. Both the wise man and the fool will die alike. So Solomon knowing this brought him into, again, like I said, much grief, because he spent much of his life laboring for what he had. It's not like he just came into to wealth and knowledge. He actually was a working man. He worked for it, right? And because of his works, he was blessed by the Most High. But eventually, he finally believed that there is nothing better for a man to do than simply just to have enough. Just simply have enough to eat and drink and enjoy the work that you do, so long as that work is good, right? Let's continue reading some more from Ecclesiastes. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9. We're going to read verses 4 through 13.
This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verses 4 to 13. For to him that is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. Neither have they any more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love and their hatred and their envy is now perished. Neither have they any more of a portion forever in anything that is done under the sun. Though thou eat thy bread with joy and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for the Most High now accepteth thy works. Let thy garments be always white, thy head lack no ointment. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest all the days of thy life of thy vanity, which he hath given thee under the sun, all the days of thy vanity. For that is thy portion in this life, and in thy labor which thou takest under the sun. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave whither thou goest. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to the men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happeneth to them all. For man also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, as the birds that are caught in the snare. So are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth suddenly upon them. This wisdom have I seen also under the sun, and it seemed great unto me.
These are the wise words of Solomon. So Solomon realized that all of his life was vanity, and that our portion in this life is simply what? To live joyfully with our spouse and to enjoy our labors. Like when I sit back and think about that, that makes life easier. It makes life easier when we're not focusing on what is vain, when we're not focusing on what isn't important. Again, the man with the most wisdom that walked this earth said, look, the most valuable thing is to simply live joyfully with your spouse and enjoy what you do. Now, again, keeping this in mind and in context, the very first precept that we read stated that wisdom is not bad. So don't get this confused by me saying that we should not seek knowledge, that we should not seek wisdom. I'm simply, knowledge and wisdom is a good thing. But when we're focused on that so much that it can become vain, because it can mean nothing if it's not being used appropriately, right? So Solomon also said that we must keep our garments white and our head should not lack ointment. This means that we're all supposed to abstain from doing evil. Now, how can we abstain from doing evil if we don't know what evil is? How can we keep our garments white and clean if we don't know what sin is? So again, even Solomon is still stating that we need to have a level of knowledge and wisdom so we know what's good and what's not. So we know what's pleasing to the Most High and what he abhors. To know what is going to benefit us and what is not. Right? And to live joyfully, this is not so saying that to live joyfully is not an excuse to live life in sin. All right? Let's move on to the New Testament. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 12, and read verses 1 through 3.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 1 to 3. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good, that acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according to the Most High, hath dealt to every man the measure of faith.
So we are supposed to live our lives in a way that is holy, or that is set apart from the ways of the world. So in a way that's acceptable and good according to the Most High. For us to renew our minds with the will of the Most High, we must first increase our knowledge of what his will is for us. So again, gaining knowledge and wisdom is good. However, simply having knowledge is not enough. We must prove ourselves by our actions. So now, what kind of actions are the scriptures referring to? Let's jump down, staying in Romans 12. Let's read verses 9 through 21.
Jumping down to verse 9 through verses 21. Let love be without dissimulation. Avoid that which is evil. Cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. Distributing to the necessity of the saints, given to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one towards another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of lower state. Be not wise in your own conceit. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good.
So the scriptures tell us to be kindly affectioned one to another. This means that we must understand and care about how people feel. Then we must act according to those feelings. At no point should we be controlled by other people's feelings, though. We also should not be controlled by our own feelings, but we should consider them. Condescending to men of low estate and honoring the woman as the weaker vessel are examples of taking someone else's feelings into consideration. In the word's terminology, this is called having emotional intelligence. So I'm going to read the definition of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. I'm going to read that again. Emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. Now, the words emotional intelligence, they may not be directly quoted from the Bible, but the principles definitely are. In the beginning of this lesson, I asked what was the primary objective of a follower of Christ. Now let's examine the words of Christ and get the answer from his own words. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 36 through 40.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 36 to 40. Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Yeshua said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and prophets.
So according to Christ, the most important thing for us to do is love. Love the Most High and love others. Now the word love used here in the Strong's is number G25, and it simply means to love. But it's also compared to Strong's number G5368, which means to be a friend to or have affection for. So in terms of goodness, having affection for others is superior than simply having knowledge. And again, that's coming from Christ. All right, let's stay in the New Testament and let's read the book of James, chapter 1. We're going to read verses 22 through 27.
This is the book of James, chapter 1, verses 22 through 27. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deeds. If any man among you seems to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. Pure religion and undefiled before the Most High and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Here it is. So we are instructed to not only be hearers of the word that simply have knowledge and understanding. However, we are also instructed to be doers of the word by showing affection one to another. Anyone can seem to be religious because they may possess a lot of knowledge. But if they do not know how to speak to people, or if they don't know how to treat people, their religion is vain. It's worthless. Pure religion is helping, serving, loving, having affection for others, all while continuing to stay absent from sin ourselves. It's not about simply following God's laws out of obligation. It's about understanding God's laws and doing them out of love. Next precept, let's go to the book of Galatians chapter 5, verses 1 through 6.
This is the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Behold, I Paul say unto you, that if ye be circumcised, Christ shall profit you nothing. For I testify again to every man that is circumcised, that he is adapted to do the whole law. Christ is become of no effect unto you. Whosoever you are justified by the law, ye are fallen from grace. For we through the Spirit wait for the hope of righteousness by faith. For in Yeshua Christ, neither circumcision availeth anything, nor uncircumcision, but faith which worketh by love.
So, saints, we must understand that we are not justified by the law or our knowledge, but rather we are all only able to be saved through our faith in Christ and his sacrifice. So anyone that has trust in their own works alone is living in vanity. Again, this, however, does not mean that we should not seek to obtain knowledge or keep the law. Rather, it means that we must do it with the correct motive. And again, that motive is with affection, with love. All right. Next precept, coming from the book of James, chapter 2. We're going to read verses 8 through 20. And we're almost done, saints. You know me, I don't try to keep y'all too long. Again, the book of James, chapter 2. We're going to read verses 8 all the way down to verse 20.
This is the book of James, chapter 2, verses 8 through 20. If ye fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well. But if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors. For whosoever shall keep the whole law, and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. So speak ye, and so do, that they shall be judged by the law of liberty. For he shall have judgment without mercy, and have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. What doeth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he have faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warned and filled. Notwithstanding ye give them not those things which are needful to the body, what doeth it profit? Even so, faith, if it have not worked, is dead being alone. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one power, thou doest well. Devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father?
Yep, that's it. Stop right there at 20. So, saints, what good is there in giving spiritual knowledge and nourishment to the poor if we are ignoring the fact that they need physical nourishment as well? How is that showing affection or love to our neighbor? Now, someone may say out of their mouths that they have knowledge and faith in Christ, but in their works, they're not affectionate to others. In this example, that is a person whose faith is vain because their works have no affection. That is not how we're supposed to be, saints. We can't be so puffed up and full of knowledge that we lack the emotional intelligence on how to be affectionate to someone else, to improve someone else's emotional well-being. All right. 2 more precepts for y'all, saints. Next, let's go to the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 13 through 26.
This is the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verses 13 through 26. For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed ye be not consumed one of another. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to another, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heresy, envying, murder, drunkenness, reveling, and such like, of these which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of a higher. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ's have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another, envying one another.
Man, all of the works of the flesh lead to vanity or nothingness. But in contrast, the works of the Spirit all express feelings of affection. So simply exercising the fruits of the Spirit, So in exercising the fruits of the Spirit, they don't require somebody to possess a high level of knowledge or wisdom. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be joyful. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be peaceful. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be patient and long suffering. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to be gentle, to be good, to have faith and hope. You don't have to have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to have meekness and temperance or self-control. These are the fruits of the flesh. I apologize. These are the fruits of the spirit, Salakia. All right, the last precept. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 13, verses 8 through 10.
Brother. This is the book of Romans, chapter 13, verses 8 through 10. Owe no man anything but to love one another. For he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. For this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this thing, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law.
God. So we have all possibly or probably heard the saying, you must first catch a fish before you can clean a fish. What that means is you must first capture something before you can then mold it and groom it or gut out what is bad and then fashion it in a way that can be received. And you can take that concept into anything in life. When it goes into evangelizing, that means trying to share this knowledge and wisdom with others. You must first capture someone, an unbeliever, with the way that you're affectionate with them. And once they see that you care about them as a person, now it will be easier for you to share the gospel because you shared affection first. If you're dealing with your spouse, maybe you and your spouse are in a disagreement. It's going to be easier for you to start with showing affection to your spouse before you try to prove your point. Because it will be easier for them to receive your point of view of what you're trying to express after you've already shown that affection. When it comes to correcting each other, or your brothers or sisters in Christ, instead of just beating them over the head with wisdom because you feel like that you have more knowledge than they do, we should first approach them through affection, having emotional intelligence, understanding how our words can influence someone else's behavior, can impact their walk, learning how to build someone up rather than just tear them and break them down. So with that, I wanted to again go back to the title of the lesson. What is superior, knowledge or affection? Vanity or goodness? And I hope that throughout this lesson that we can see that the superior of these attributes, the goodness, is the affection. And with that, this concludes the lesson. I pray that it was well received, and I wish you all a shalom and barakatah.